It's bottomed, but maybe not exactly the one that you think as we go over in today's video. Everyone's favorite altcoin and what that likely means for the greater market, and some Bitcoin action as well, following up in yesterday's short-term time frame analysis. Without further ado, we can just jump right on this one, starting off with the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing right here. On the daily time frame, we do see several signals now of regular bullish divergence of the 3 drives variety coming off of this current low, as it did dip below below 4.7 million satoshis. In this case, that is very likely good for at least a medium-term time frame bounce with that many drives of divergence, with the next sort of targeted region just above 5 million satoshis, probably coming up in this next week. Now, with that said, the daily time frame is just that, the daily time frame, a rather powerful time frame, but not as powerful as, of course, the weekly. And the weekly time frame is showing a signal that we have not seen since basically the last macro bottom, which is 3 drives of bullish divergence come off of the lows from October of last year, connected with the January lows of this year, and then yet again the April lows that were seemingly seen, if that's not redone enough, as of right now. And if that does get confirmed, I would be expecting this area, just basically below 5 million satoshis as being the next sort of bottoming region. The last time that we saw this many drives of bullish divergence was back on over here in December of 2019, where it did bottom out pretty much on the last macro low. And the only time before that we've seen, this many significant drives of bullish divergence, regular bullish divergence, was on this major low right here before a nice rally. So in this case, I would say that this is likely a very high probability region of a higher low. Also, do keep in mind that this is coming in around the 382 Fibonacci retracement, which is kind of the shallow fib for this one, going off of the ultimate high of this last run in 2021 and the ultimate low of the prior cycle in 2018 to 2019. So a big region right there. Does imply, of course, while there is a higher probability of this being the next sort of major low, it can still take a lot of time for this to kind of flip back around and try an upside move, as it realistically has been. But on the other side, just because it has a higher probability doesn't mean that it is a certainty. Of course, if this area is to fail, you would be expecting basically closures on a wick, not on a wick basis, but on a closing basis below the current lowest wick right here that we saw earlier this month. If you see that, okay, fair enough. Very, very likely we see this one come back down below 4 million satoshis, maybe even lower than that over time. But we've been kind of looking at this area for, the past few months here since 2024 started as a likely bottoming region. And as you can see, it's taken a lot of patience, but we are getting the next sort of, signal that you would be expecting if this one is indeed going to be the next major low. What does that mean for the greater altcoin market? Well, probably the greater altcoin market does seemingly well. Here's a thing, though, and I think this is really going to speak towards the ineffectiveness of Bitcoin dominance as a metric here. While this chart is actually seemingly putting another tie, most altcoins that I see on my list are down big, and down big a lot more than Bitcoin as well. So it seems to me that the altcoins that probably are eating into Bitcoin's dominance are probably few and far between. And one of them is very likely going to be, as we just went over, Ethereum Bitcoin. I suspect that another one's going to be Solana Bitcoin as well. But this is really going to start to be, as we've been saying throughout this cycle now, a picker's market, an altcoins picker's market. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to say is that I think the days of just blindly throwing a dart at the board and making a shit ton of money are probably going away. Like, as we saw in prior market cycles where just everything in their mother, just by the nature of being in the crypto space, rallied big time. I think that you're just going to see kind of less of that, more of only the stronger ones, and that is kind of what we do expect in a more maturing market. And if Bitcoin dominance is legitimate, or not legitimate, but if it is still relevant, then that would suggest that those ones are going to be big winners, and everything else is probably not. Because again, when I go through my list here, almost everything is down big in comparison to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin dominance going down must only be done by like a select few, really. So again, that metric, I think is just not as useful as looking at whatever asset that you're interested in looking at that versus Bitcoin. If your asset versus Bitcoin is in an uptrend or putting in a major low, it's probably a really good sign. If it's still in a long-term downtrend, you're fucked. It is what it is. All right, it's time for some quick Bitcoin analysis going on right here as well. Bitcoin did close above yesterday's low. Or sorry, yesterday did close above Bitcoin's Thursday low on CME, but of course CME is not trading for the weekend here, so we can't really make anything much more of this chart. So in order for us to do really anything for the weekend, we need to go over here to the index, and you can see that Bitcoin is finding a bit of footing off the 50% low right there. Of course, I would still remain with the same sort of analysis over the weekend here as I did yesterday, in the sense that if Bitcoin does close below Thursday's low, if you see a closure below there, I would be expecting, another step down somewhere around 61,000 bucks, maybe a little bit below 61,000 bucks. But these are very, very tight ranges here, because that doesn't really do anything still for the long term. The long term sort of major pivot point, as far as I'm concerned, is Friday the 19th of April's low. If you see Bitcoin start to, trade or especially close below there, we're very likely looking at a much more prolonged correction for multiple months, and that's that. But I think as long as Bitcoin is still kind of holding this region, let's call it 62,600 basically, especially on a closing basis, the hopium for this area right here being the next higher low compared to the prior low right here of mid-April is still valid. It's still a valid thing. And as we'll go over probably in tomorrow's video, I said I was gonna do it today, but probably in tomorrow's video, just because I want to see if this one actually holds for today. There are a few other things that do suggest that, we're probably looking at the next major opportunity. It's just the timing of this is, the question is okay, do we see this market continue in May, or do we see like a summer-wide correction? I would hold a reservation on that until we see what happens in the next 2 to 3 days, basically. I want to see if this area holds enough. If it doesn't, we're likely looking at a multi-month long correction. If it does, if you see this area continue to bounce from that mid-62 region, basically, I think we continue in May. Not we continue, but Bitcoin continues in May. Validated if Bitcoin does trade back above basically the 22nd of April's high right here. If you see Bitcoin start to close above this local high right here, yeah, fair game. It's upwards and onwards yet again. Do we have anything from stochastic momentum? 4-hour time frame remains to the downside. Don't know how much that matters for right now, so maybe another swipe at the lows. I mean, that obviously would favor downside continuation over the weekend, but just don't know how much I trust these things over the weekends. Daily time frame is a little bit in a precarious place. Momentum will turn down below 63,800. Bitcoin closed below there today. Also, nice trendline regression coming in from these last few highs, kind of guarding against this region. So, again, I don't know how much weight I put on these things as of right now. It's just weekend time is just not the time to be making decisions, in my opinion. When the market opens up for Monday, the real trading week begins, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't want to be making too many calls before that. So yeah, going back to it over here, that's really the only call that I'll be making over the weekends. Perhaps that is where I will, perhaps that is where I'll end things for today's video. Nice and short and sweet one. As always, if you find this content valuable or in some way useful, maybe consider subscribing. I do these videos each and every day, even during these more boring times, because, well, important things do happen, and these ranges are really, really tightening up right here. So we shall see. I expect we probably get clarity on this situation over these next few days or into early next week, basically. So that's going to do it for today's video. As always, I'd like to wish you the best of the best. Take care. Much love. And if you're new here, fuck you, and see you tomorrow.